I just want to make one or two brief points myself. They're more observations, really, I suppose, at this stage than questions. I mean, we've had, this is our third meeting in relation to this topic, and everybody that has come to the meetings is obviously, very passionate about the issue, and particularly I think the meeting, I'm not sure if you had the opportunity to see it, but where we had parents reps and we had some organisations, advocacy groups and stuff in, it was really powerful what people were saying. And I would imagine, and I actually know that we all as elected representatives get contacted regularly by parents really who would, they're absolutely trying to do their best by their children, and they really want to get these services. So obviously it's fallen down somewhere along the way, and I do appreciate the fact that you've said that you accept the Ombudsman report and very much want to work with it. But I think one of the key things going forward, and I know you made reference to there are some levels of consultation or people with lived experience, but I think that needs to be broadened out. I think there needs to be wider consultation with people themselves, and then maybe parents, and it might differ from CHO to CHO, but I think that is one of the key ways of actually getting something correct and getting something right, is speaking to people who've used the service, because it can be very overwhelming. You're given maybe a lot of documentation. I can't even imagine what it must be like at the moment in relation to COVID, but I think we can't fool ourselves and say that COVID is the issue, because it isn't. There was issues in relation to resources and funding and staffing, and that's something that we have no difficulty raising as a committee, and in terms of trying to advocate for additional resources. But we do need to know that from the HSE's point of view, that all of that is being used adequately, and there is good consultation with people and with parents, and that they're not sort of being, fobbed off, because people will say it varies from region to region. In some areas it's excellent, in other areas not so much. And so we need to look at the areas where it is working and try and replicate that best practice. So I would hope that we could see maybe better and wider consultation processes. And I don't mean sort of once off. I mean that, if there was representative bodies set up where people can have a meeting once a month and say, oh, this is working, this is not working, because you're not going to ever be able to beat that type of knowledge. I just would hope that you will take that on board, or maybe you've got some points to say on it now. But, we do want to have regular engagement with yourselves. It is difficult at the moment in terms of we're limited to the 2 hours, and it feels like you're being bombarded with questions, but that's obviously just down to our own time constraints in relation to COVID and everything. But we would welcome those regular reports and regular documentation, because then we can try and see where it is falling down, and give credit in the areas where it's working, and then see how we can replicate that, because we can't allow this situation to keep continuing. It really is failing our children, and it's not acceptable really in 2021 that we still have children falling through the cracks like this. So I would just appreciate the ongoing engagement. Those reports, we definitely would welcome those on a regular basis. And then if there is stuff that you can say maybe in relation to widening and broadening out feedback and consultation for parents, so that and I would mean like genuine situations where people's views are actually being taken on board. Some of the knowledge people have, if they have a number of children in different services, you're not going to be able to beat that knowledge. And I think that you should welcome that, maybe rather than see it as, a negative thing. So thanks very much. If you want to come in on any of those points, or any concluding remarks you want to make as well now at this stage. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Cathaleen. And just to welcome your remarks, I thought you did an excellent job at just summing up the kind of key concerns, and we absolutely will provide whatever assistance and support by way of reports and participation to this really important committee, absolutely, without question. A couple of things I think is important for me to reflect by way of maybe closing on a couple of important items. One relates to the involvement of parents and people with lived experience, people with disabilities, in other words, to have a central involvement in how we deliver better supports that actually meets people's real living situations on a day-to-day basis. I mentioned before through Professor McLaughlin and his work, we're already doing that. I mentioned some examples before. We mentioned Honour for the autistic community and the improvement programme being developed there. On the clinical design programme, we have parents. We'd also have people with lived experience as well. We are very committed to, on a regional basis, because, We need to have not just top-down approaches, we need bottom-up approaches. So each of the CHOs have to establish and are committed to establishing forums which allows for participation and making sure that the parents' voice is heard. It is important to get across the point that for quite some time actually at this stage, the Progressive Disability Services forums actually do include parental reps as well. We want to make sure that that's happening equally and comprehensively in each of the 9 regions. So we're committed to doing that and making sure that it happens, and that it actually genuinely allows for parents to have a real role in relation to how we develop services, and to be critical friends as well, because I think the point around parents, not just in COVID times, but pre-COVID times, under tremendous strain, which is why we're committed to not just reform for reform's sake, but actually putting real investment. I should make the point again that Minister Rabbitte has made huge strides in relation to additional investment. I mean, alone in this year's budget, which will be 2.2 billion, 100 million additional in our base budget, an additional 28 million once-off monies, not just to do with the assessment of need backlog, but also under the Minister's Transforming Lives scheme as well, which is about helping services change how they do their business, give additional resources in relation to important things like access to equipment, access to intervention programmes as well. So that is making a real difference. I mentioned as well the programme for government, which commits to working towards implementing the capacity report. That's a critical one for us from the point of view of looking at a longer term approach in relation to investment in disability services, insofar as we make sure we do the necessary reforms to meet the conditions of the UN Convention. I can't emphasise that enough. As well. So just to conclude, Chair, by saying that we really do welcome today, and we've been, we have been looking forward to it, and we are absolutely committed to making sure that you get all the information that you need as the legislature in relation to not just policy, but what we'd refer to in my opening statement around absolutely welcoming the Ombudsman's report, and the HSE will absolutely play its part in relation to implementing the recommendations that are in it in the context of the policy that we're already and have been implementing as well. So thank you, Gerlach and members.
Thanks very much. Just to also thank your colleagues, Ms Angela O'Neill, Ms Breda Crane-Roach, Professor Malcolm McLaughlin, as well as yourself, Dr Morgan, for being with us today, and just thanks to the members as well. It's always more difficult chairing these meetings in COVID, so I always welcome people's cooperation, so thanks.